From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up, wake up.
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One ball, corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
And Corey Clark.
Let's go! Football season, almost. Not really.
Yeah,
but
it's right around the corner.
The Magna Carta, we're going to have it in front of us here in moments, we hope. Welcome into this special live edition of Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill and our friends over at Vitamin Energy. Corey Clark, Aslan Hajavandi here with you. We will be reacting live to the 2024 Florida State football schedule unveil. We got a whole bunch of people backstage helping us out. So as soon as that schedule drops, we'll have it posted up here on the screen. We can react to it in real time. Thanks for being here. Hit the thumbs up, won't you? Before we start this roller coaster of a day, get the thumbs up out there. Video starts pinging out across the world. People are like, oh, Warchant's at it again. Let's see what's going on. They hop over here. So thanks for being here, everybody. Corey, how are you? I trust you're well.
I am good. Thank you so much for asking. That means a lot.
All right, absolutely. We got lots of people here in the chat, so we appreciate you folks showing up. Our guy, Luis Maez, says hello from Oklahoma. I'm excited to know what date the SMU game is as I'm heading down to Dallas. I, too, am most curious about that game, Corey.
That's going to be a fun one. It's we know it's going to be on a Saturday, so that's something. So one of the 7 free Saturdays that they have, or 8 free Saturdays, it's going to be one of them. And our friends Shane and Michelle, Dallas Pillars, will be very excited about the date of that game as well.
Strong alumni club leadership as well over in the Dallas-Fort Worth
That's
area.
right. That's right. That's right. You don't remember her name, do you? That was at the Charlotte bar. You're good with names, but I don't think you're that good. That was like 2 months ago.
Kara.
Oh, look at you, man. You're something special. She runs does she run the Dallas club?
Yes. I don't know if she runs it, but she's part of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
So we should maybe we'll have something cool out there on Friday night before the game. We should do that for these new cities we've never been to. We should have like a Warchant get together in Dallas somewhere with the Dallas Seminole Club.
I'm down. And I think Austin, I wonder if Austin might get a little jealous, envious. Maybe they want to throw their hat in the ring too and help bolster the whole thing. I mean, because Austin's not too far from Dallas, I don't think, right?
Well, get Florida State in the SEC, and then you could have us there every year, Austin Seminole Club. Come on, work your magic.
By the way, that SMU team had a really solid quarterback, Preston Stone, I think his name was, but he broke his leg in their regular season finale. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see where this game
broken
falls.
Leg, you should be back in 9 months, right?
Yeah, but you never know how crisp he might be. Who knows? Maybe the Kevin Jennings kid who backed them up, maybe he takes the reins. But these are the things that we will think about and talk about once the schedule is dropped.
We do have the schedule
in my email box right now. I don't know if I can pull it up cleanly when I'm looking at my email here, but we'll go ahead and read it off. We'll have a ticker scrolling down at the bottom of the screen here momentarily. And of course, there we go. There's a nice sort of format of it. Memphis, we knew was going to be week 3. Cal game, September 21st. So they're going to start off Georgia Tech, Boston College, Memphis, Cal.
3 straight home games, by the way. Didn't they do that last year? Didn't Florida State have 3 straight home games last year?
Yeah, because then there was what? There was like that whole month where they weren't in Doak. So.
This one's different because there is a Saturday off in between Boston College and Memphis. Yeah, get that bad boy up there, Aslan. I like that we get to see all your other.
Yeah, I'm a little bit scared. I can't make it much larger either.
Well, yeah. Well, guys, just try to ignore how many he's got in his inbox. I'd like to know what you archived. What were the 16 that you archived?
I don't know. Who knows? That's a drunk stuff you're scrolling through. But all right, so we obviously knew they were going to start off in Dublin against Georgia Tech. They will have a quasi-bye week. Then they have a Monday game at home against Boston College. Then they've got Memphis. They got a week after Boston College as well. Am I seeing that right? Wow, 12 days off between the Boston College and Memphis game.
Well, because it's a Monday. So they play Boston College on a Monday, and they're not going to let them. They're not going to make them play that next Saturday, which is kind of a break. It's a good break. Okay. So they get 2 Saturdays off in a row. I mean, they play Boston College on a Monday, but then the next Saturday is off because they just played on that Monday. Yeah.
All right. So SMU, Clemson.
First true road game of the season is at SMU on September 28th.
Then you got Clemson at home. Then you got a week off before you have that. Wow, they get a week off after the Friday night game too, before the Friday night game.
Yeah, they get a week off before the Friday night game. So yeah, that looks. So if you're listening to this,
manageable.
That's very manageable.
Off after the Notre Dame game my gosh, that's nice.
Yeah. The ACC did right by Florida State. The Miami game, as we talked about on yesterday's show, is 8 days after the Duke game on Friday night. So you do get that extra day. I'd like to see who Miami plays on the 19th. I'd also like to see who Clemson plays on September 28th. In fact, I'll go look at that now because I think that's important. But yeah, man, when you look at that schedule, that's as manageable as they could make it. You get after the Clemson game, you get 12 days off before you play that Friday night game. Like you're going to be favored. I don't know what Miami's going to be. How could we know at this point? But you got to figure you're going to be favored in those first 7 games. And then even if you go 7-1, 6-2, you finish with North Carolina. You're going to be favored in that game. At Notre Dame's going to be a coin toss at best. Notre Dame might be awesome. Who knows? Charleston Southern's a win. And then Florida at home. They might be on an interim coach. They probably will be on an interim coach when they come to Tallahassee. So, yeah, man, I don't think you can look at that schedule and think you get a bye week after Boston College, you get a bye week after Clemson, and then you get a bye week after Notre Dame. Like the stretch of at Miami, North Carolina, at Notre Dame, that's tough. You play, actually starting with Duke, you play 3 road games and 4, and at Duke, at Miami, North Carolina, home, at Notre Dame, back to back to back to back. But, I mean, you're in the ACC. This is not murderer's row.
Well, and again, you have that breather after the Clemson game to get ready for that onslaught, if you will, at Duke, at Miami, home against North Carolina, which I guess they're going to run it back in North Carolina. Like Chip Lindsey stuck around. I looked that up this morning because we talked about on the podcast yesterday, and North Carolina won't be an easy out, but yeah, North Carolina doesn't, put the fear of, listen, if they couldn't do any better than what they did with Drake May, I just don't, unless maybe they go Tennessee after they lost Peyton Manning, and maybe they end up winning the national title the year after he leaves, their transcendent quarterback. Maybe North Carolina's got that up their pocket. Highly doubt it though.
Probably not.
No.
Probably not. Man, I can't find the actual composite schedule. I'm just genuinely interested in Clemson and Miami. I think when you look at this, when you're thinking about who you're going to challenge on your schedule to try to get to Charlotte, those are the 2. I know we can all make jokes about Miami. They've been to Charlotte once. They still haven't scored a touchdown in an ACC championship game. I get all that, all Canes conference. But they're going to be, that's probably one of the 3 toughest games on your schedule. They're probably going to be in a bid to get to Charlotte to finish in the top 2. So you want to know when they play, who they play before they play Florida State. Yeah, we got Clemson right there, right?
High command. Yeah.
So Clemson before Florida State on the road looked like they played Stanford at home. Or maybe that's a road game. I can't tell. My eyes aren't great, even with the glasses. But they have Stanford before Florida State. And then Miami before Florida State has Louisville on the road. So, again, I feel like you've gotten –
that's big.
Louisville's another team that's going to be challenging for the play for the championship game. So, man, I feel like you look at that. That's not a bad deal at all. That's not a bad deal at all. You get 3 out of 4 road games. I get that, and it's pretty tough to go at Notre Dame, at Miami. I think that's what the schedule was. Or no, maybe at Notre Dame. I can't remember. Well, it's right there. Look at it, Corey. Open your eyes. So you got at Duke, at Miami, North Carolina, at Notre Dame. That's a toughie. That's a tough slate there. Your 5 toughest games might be right there in a row when you count Clemson the home before the bye week. But, it's the ACC. You're not playing Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, and then LSU. It's certainly a manageable schedule.
Yeah, that Stanford game before they play Florida State for Clemson will be at home, so no transcontinental flight.
Right.
To help out there. Miami having Louisville the week before on the road and then having to play Duke with Manny Diaz, like that homecoming game for him, that's going to be a little bit of a psychological warfare game. Like Florida State,
I
never going to be a trap game, but
was going to say it's a sandwich this game between the two games they care about.
But those are 3 hot and heavy games if you're Mario Cristobal in Miami. Meanwhile, again, Florida State has that Friday night game before Miami and gets to kind of catch their breath, and then they'll be back at home taking on North Carolina after the Miami game. And then you obviously have the bye week after Clemson. Clemson, Miami, Notre Dame, right? Those are your 3 toughest games we probably thought going into the schedule reveal, Corey, if
right.
I don't put words in your mouth. But so you have a bye week after Clemson.
Yep.
You've got quasi bye before you play Miami. And then just make it through Notre Dame, man. Let's just get to South Bend. Let's kick some ass. And then we can get home and we can breathe again.
Yes.
It's hard to think that you were not saying that they did you any favors, but they certainly didn't do you dirty.
No, not at all. And there's a chance the FSU at Miami game could be a really big one. Like the nation will be watching. Same with Clemson. When you look at Clemson's schedule, there's nothing that really scares you other than that opener. That opener is going to be probably tough for Cade Klubnik and company, but they start with Georgia. It's not the easiest team to start with. But after that, Appalachian State, maybe, I don't know who the A is, NC State, Stanford. So you would think they're going to be at worst 2-2, but probably 3-1 heading into that game. You hope Florida State is 4-0 with that schedule that they start with, but it's football. Crazy things happen. I will say this, folks, if you're watching this, you're clearly a Florida State fan because you want to know our reaction to a schedule reveal. Go ahead and try to get those hotels. Now that you know when the home games are, get on it now, quickly. 8 months ahead of time. Now, it's still going to be outrageous. I get it. It's ridiculous. But maybe it's a $50 cheaper if you book right now as opposed to the summer or after spring practice or something. So try to get yourself a place to stay.
I think a lot of folks actually were able to book rooms for the Boston College game as soon as they saw that it was officially a Labor Day game and the hotels were asleep at the wheel. So shout out to all those people that were able to hop on and get a room at a good rate rather. We'll take your questions here soon on the show, but lots on the bone here to still kind of pick at. So, Corey, that's not you just mentioned it with Clemson. Now I'm getting to look at it too and kind of digest and process it. That's not fun. That's not a fun September.
No.
Georgia's obviously August 31st, but that's probably a loss. Appalachian State's not going to be a gimme. And then they got to play NC State and then Stanford and then Florida State. Again, and those are body blow, perhaps games that accumulate and leave you a little bit limping walking into a game in Tallahassee. So,
am I reading that right, Aslan? It looks like Florida State will be their first true road game. Georgia, I think, is at Mercedes-Benz. It's in Atlanta, so that's a neutral site, and it will be neutral-ish site. Like those Clemson fans are good, and they'll travel for that game. But it looks like the other 3 games in September for them are all at home, so that'll be their first road game of the season.
That is correct, Corey. That is correct. And then let's look at Louisville last, I guess. We'll go to Miami then. So they'll be in the Swamp. Then they're going to host FAMU. I think that's Ball State. And then at USF, that could be tricky.
Yeah,
be tricky. Then a Friday night game against Virginia Tech at Cal. Open. So they get to that open week. Miami, they could be unblemished.
They could be, but it's Miami.
Yeah.
It's hard to just – this isn't 2001 where you just tick off W's, really for any team, but certainly not that program. So, yeah, if they get in with 1 or 2 losses, 1 loss, that'll be a really good start for them. And that game figures to be a monumental game as far as trying to get in that ACC championship.
Open week at Louisville, host Florida State, the Manny Diaz Bowl after that. That'll be tough.
I tell you what, man, you remember how one thing I'm noticing right away, you remember how last year it seemed like Florida State played, maybe they played like 9 weeks in a row. It seemed like they were back to back to back. They didn't get any time off. So because they start on week 0 and then they play Labor Day, well, they get 3 open dates for the next 10 games.
Yes.
They only play 70% of those Saturdays after the first 2. So if you get through those first 2, 2-0, which you should, and nothing's for granted around here in college football. But if you're 2-0 and then you've got open date, 4 games, open date, 4 games, open date, Charleston Southern, which is essentially an open date, Florida. So you've got 3.5 open dates out of your final 10 games. That works. That works. And you never play more than 4 games in a row all season.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This feels weird. Like, why are they doing, again, not favors, but just, I was bracing for
Maybe a little olive branch.
maybe.
Michael Alford, baby, look how we're doing you. Stick around. Don't leave. Look how we treat you, man. You're not going to get called for any crazy holds or personal fouls. We're going to start treating you fairly now. See what happens when the greasy wheel.
Yeah.
What is that saying? Squeaky wheel. The greasy wheel gets the squeak.
Yeah, there we go. Notre Dame not on the composite, sadly, because they're not a full-time member.
Yeah, screw them.
All right, so then I guess let's look at Louisville now then. Louisville with Austin Peay, I assume, the Governors?
It could be, man. I'm not even convinced that first game for Clemson is Appalachian State.
It is.
It is? Okay. All right.
I zoomed up on my side here. I'm limited in how tight I can go on this to where I won't like eliminate certain hallmarks I think you probably want to be able to see on your screen, everybody.
Yeah, I got you.
But Louisville's got 2 non-Power 5 games, open week, Georgia Tech at Notre Dame. They go on a bit of a run there, though. Look at those. That's 1, 2, 3, 7 games in a row.
7 straight games, starting with Georgia Tech, who they barely beat last year, and then closing at Clemson with Miami mixed in there, and Notre Dame. That's a tough stretch, man. 7 straight. You can't. That's one thing I didn't appreciate until you're actually watching practice, because we get to watch practice, and I feel like you guys have heard me mention that before. We're lucky enough to get to watch practice. You don't understand just being a media member or a fan necessarily when you're just standing outside watching guys walk in and out of practice but not seeing anything. How big a tax this is on their bodies. When you notice, when you play for 7 straight weeks, that 6th week, half their starters might be sitting out, just trying to get ready for Saturday because of the bangs and the bruises. That's certainly how it was with Florida State this past year, which again is why it was so impressive. They went 13-0, but whatever. I'm not bringing that up. But so 7 straight weeks, your body doesn't get any time to really recover, and guys start missing practice time. Guys start missing games. They get really beat up. This is that's a disadvantage, and it is a huge advantage for Florida State to never play more than 4 games in a row.
I just hope I hope this is the new normal. Like, I know you're not going to get 3 open weeks, but I would like 2 open weeks.
Yeah,
I would like 2 open weeks every season. Not asking
well,
for
it
the
looks
world.
like that's what everybody has this year. Florida State and Georgia Tech are the ones that have 3 because they play that week 0 game. But yeah, everybody else has 2. So I think that's how it's supposed to be.
All right. Well, let's hop into it then here. Shout out to our guys, Tom Lang, Ben Spicer, doing stuff backstage, making it work. The full schedule for Florida State then. I mean, looking at that composite, Corey, Florida State has to be the odds-on favorite to win this conference again. Looking at that schedule, and again, it is January 24th. Shout out to my brother. It's his birthday, by the way.
Shout out Aslan's brother.
Yeah, happy birthday, man. On January 24th, looking at the schedules and kind of keeping some inventory of who's bringing what back and what they've added in the portal, I just feel really good about Florida State's chances. Georgia Tech, dub. Boston College, dub. Memphis, dub. Cal, dub. SMU, close dub. Clemson, close.
But also think about this, Aslan. Think about them being 5-0, which is a possibility, probably a probability, but it's not a certainty by any stretch, because they're not going to be as good as they were last year, and we don't know for sure what this thing's going to look like when it all comes together. But they should be another top 15-ish team. But top 15 teams lose. But anyway, let's say they're 5-0. They win those first 5 games. They're going to be favored in all 5. Imagine that scene on Saturday night, you hope, Saturday night, October 5th, when Clemson comes back to town, going against, it's Dabo, obviously, but going against his old starting quarterback. That's going to be that's going to be a very, very watched football game. And there's going to be a lot of emotions. It's going to, I get excited just thinking about that scene with Clemson coming to Tallahassee.
I don't know enough about the Notre Dame roster But I just feel like Florida State, I can say with a modicum of certainty, they have more talent than 11 of the 12 teams on this screen right here. Notre Dame's the only one I'd have to really like go brass tacks on and do some deep digging on. They got Riley Leonard out quarterback after Sam Hartman wrapped up his Van Wilder career in college.
Right.
They brought Mike Denbrock back. He was LSU's offensive coordinator these past few years. Brian Kelly took him. He was with Brian Kelly at Central Michigan and Cincinnati, even before, I think, Central Michigan in Cincinnati. And then he went down with them to LSU after they were in Notre Dame together. Denbrock's up at Notre Dame, but he doesn't have Jaden Daniels, and he doesn't have Malik Neighbors, and he doesn't have Brian Thomas. So we'll see just how potent that offense can be. But that defense is tricky. But, you know, Mike handled Cincinnati when he was at Memphis and when Marcus Freeman was a defensive coordinator at Cincinnati under Luke Fickell. So,
look, man, in 21, they put up 38 points with a one-legged quarterback in Jordan Travis, who wasn't Jordan Travis at that point.
Yeah.
Like they've done, and even the year before with COVID, they put up 26 points. It got stopped at the 1 yard line. They just couldn't stop them, but the defense couldn't. But yeah, he's always performed pretty well against Brian. I know Brian Kelly isn't the defensive coordinator, but against Brian Kelly defensive coordinators, Norvell's put up a lot of points on him.
So, Corey, what is it for you then, my friend? You know, don't want to be overly arrogant on here and just predict they're going to win a national title this year, like on a vengeance tour or anything. But is it the lack of a overwhelming talent advantage, or is it not having that quarterback that seemingly just knew how to operate this offense at absolute peak efficiency, regardless of how they sputtered towards the end of November before he got hurt? Which one of those makes you kind of temper enthusiasm for looking at what this team has done under this coaching staff and what they could do this coming season?
Well, you know, it's looking at it in the sense of, you know, what would their record last year? Let's not even get into Jordan right now. What would their record last year have been without, let's say, Trey Benson, Keon Coleman, and Johnny Wilson? You know, I don't think they win the Clemson game. In fact, I know they don't win the Clemson game without Johnny and Keon. They don't. Maybe Duke is down to the wire. Maybe they lose to Florida because they don't have Trey Benson. You know what I mean? Like, and you're losing all those guys. So the point being, it's just the unknown. It's just the unknown of the guys that you got to replace them. What's it going to look like? Can Hakeem Williams take over a game? Can Malik Benson? What is this receiving core going to look like? Are they going to make game-changing, game-saving, game-winning plays that the receiving core last year did? And is your running game going to have, you know, seemingly once a game, a 60-yard touchdown or an 80-yard touchdown? That, to me, and also you don't have the best defensive end in the country, or one of them. But so more than anything, it's just me being cautious about, like, let's see what it looks like in the spring. Let's see what this collection of talent looks like, because so many of them are unproven. You know, Marvin Jones, Earl Little, Malik Benson, the kid from LSU, the running back from Alabama. I think is a nice player, but I don't think he's Trey Benson. Right. So yeah, that's all. I just want to see what this collection of talent looks like before I start making grand proclamations that they're going to be in the playoff again. But on paper, the way this thing looks, they should have more talent than everybody they play, save for maybe Clemson, because they've still recruited at a high level. They just don't know about the portal. Notre Dame, don't know. Not familiar enough, like you said. And maybe Miami. We'll see what Miami looks like. Like, Miami's done well in the portal, and they've done well in recruiting the last few years. So let's see what these rosters look like. But they're certainly not going to be overwhelmed, you wouldn't figure, by anybody's talent, because they've replaced a lot of their really good players with other potentially really good players.
Well said.
Thanks,
such
buddy.
clear thoughts, such clear, articulate, well thought, well reasoned thoughts. Corey's probably under the influence of vitamin energy, probably the Focus Plus. Won't you try it, everybody? We are live, so we're presented by our friends over at Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com, promo code Warchant, BOGO, BOGO. It is energy with benefits. 7 hours of energy in a full shot. I take a half, everybody, and I get, you know, probably 5 hours of my day at absolute peak efficiency. I don't deserve to have 7 hours. No. I just don't think I deserve that. So maybe one day I will. But I take a half shot, keeps me good, keeps me level. 260 milligrams of all natural caffeine in a full shot, so I'm getting like 130-ish or whatever. but packed with vitamins and nutrients. Again, man, the Workout Plus is over here in my hand too. The sour apple, my second favorite tasting behind the Tango Orange of the Immune Plus. But I'm stoked to realize it's got magnesium in it after all this time, Corey. Magnesium,
okay.
big deal again to get you sleeping well. And I think I'm making some gains right now, Corey. And the biggest factor I think is sleep. I feel to sleep so well after the football season with not having to be at morning practice, which I miss being out there, miss seeing your face, but it's all about sleep. So maximize everything in your day. You can do it by trying out Vitamin Energy. Go to their website. What's the promo code, Corey?
Warchant BOGO.
That's right. Try it. Shake it and take it. Try it. You'll like it. Warchant and Vitamin Energy. What a pair. Nice on the palate. Let's talk playoffs then, Corey. It is a 12-team layout this season. When you look at the schedule, I'll put the composite back up here in a moment. What gets you into a 12-team playoff in 2024 playing a conference like this one in this slate that Florida State has?
Well, winning it is automatic. So go do that. You might be on the road in the first round. Even if you go 12-0 or 13-0, you might be on the road in the first round instead of getting one of the buys, or you might be hosting a game. But yeah, you win it. That's why I'm saying, like, it's an odd time, not an odd time. I guess it makes sense that like the 12-team playoffs starts right when or about at the same time as we've gotten rid of divisions. So it really is a chase for those two spots. You can lose to Clemson and then play Clemson again in essentially a de facto playoff game. Not a de facto, it would be a playoff game in Charlotte. So that game automatically becomes a playoff game for whoever wins it. Like last year, Louisville would have been in the playoff if they'd have won that game. I'm talking about last year, last December, 7 weeks ago. So that's what I think. You just look at this, give yourself a chance. Don't worry if you lose to Notre Dame. It doesn't affect you. You want to win against Notre Dame. It probably gives you a little margin for error in case you don't win the ACC championship. You might still be able to sneak in there at 12, but who are we kidding? But maybe that happens. But yeah, if you win 7 of those conference games, you get a margin for error. You could lose 1, maybe 2. But if you lose 1, you're probably in Charlotte with a chance to go to the playoff, which is all after you lost so many dudes and had such a great year. If you can go 7-1 with this conference slate, which is set up pretty nicely for you, you will give yourself a playoff game in Charlotte to get to another playoff game a couple weeks later.
I don't know if this exercise will work here, Corey, because it is the highest ranked 5 conference champions, but there isn't a Power 5 any longer. So I think it ends up being like, one of these group of 5s gets that 5th one, if you will. So, Big 10, SEC, Big 12 still out there, ACC, and then all these other groups. So if Florida State were to be 12-0 and then lose in Charlotte, is that worse than being 10-3 and having 1 in Charlotte?
So what do you mean as far as the seeding?
As far as making it into the playoff, like at 10,
if you win in Charlotte, you're in. It doesn't matter. You don't even have to be ranked. You're in. They have to take 5 conference champions, and there's only 5. There's only 4 out there. Oh, you're saying a group of 5 might be able to sneak in above.
No, they say it's the 5. I thought it's the 5 highest ranked conference champions.
So it could be like UCF and somebody else, New Mexico or somebody, or BYU. You're saying that something like that. I would still think. I would think after last year, and I'm being completely naive. If you go 12-0 and lose in Charlotte, they would put you in the playoff. I would think they would almost have to, unless they want the selection committee to be doxxed again. Yeah. You might want to put 5.
I misspoke. Anyways, it's the 6th. It's the 6th highest ranked conference champion. So you win the conference, unless I don't think Mountain West is going to jump you.
I mean, I would think a 9-3, a 10-3, even 9-4 Florida State that just won the conference would be ranked 22nd, and that would be enough to get you in, I think.
Shout out to Tony Greco. Say the 4 highest ranked conference champs get the bye. Crazy thing is the seeding though goes after that. So you could like whoever loses the SEC championship game, it could be a battle of 12-0 teams.
Well, now theoretically, the seeding starts there because the people ranking them are the same people that are going to rank 5 through 12. You know what I mean? They're not going by the AP poll. So the 4 highest ranked conference champions are still highest ranked by the selection committee. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that it's still the same group doing the rankings 1 through 12. And they did a bang-up job last year. So there's really no reason to distrust that they won't do a great job again. But yeah, it would be big to get a bye. Would you rather? How about this?
No, I want a home playoff game.
You would rather be seeded 7th than 1st.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. I don't know that I agree with you because you would use that bye week would be really important. But man, it would be cool. It'd be cool to have a playoff game at Doak. I mean, just saying that out loud is cool. Yeah, you're right. I think I'm with you. I think I'd rather them be. So don't go undefeated, gang. Lose at least one game and try to nestle into that 6 or 7 spot.
I mean, did you see the way the 49ers and the Ravens played in the first half of their games coming off that bye week, the bye week. Had them on the ropes. I just want to keep playing football, man. Just want to keep playing football. You'll have 2 weeks off or whatever between the conference championship game and that opening round. It's good enough.
Okay.
Put some dirt on it. Keep going. Let's keep winning some football games. All that said, I'm sure Mike Norvell's watching this and being like, shut up, Aslan. I want the bye.
Yeah.
To which I say, all right, coach, I got you.
You know he's watching this.
Yeah. Benjamin Haygood's here, everybody. And he brought $20 with him. Thank you, Benjamin.
Thank you, Benjamin. We appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Very nice schedule. I expected some tomfoolery from the league. Only team that scares me is Notre Dame and maybe Miami if Mario learned how to coach. Touche. Which I wanted to bring this. This is probably a good time to also bring this up from our guy New King _God. Don't sleep on Georgia Tech. Y'all could lose that game. They return their whole offense. We'll make sure to kneel when we're in the victory formation, though. New King God. He's a Miami guy. Yeah. He's an all right guy, though. Anyhow, any look ahead scenarios you think? I don't know, trap games, kind of like you're looking ahead to your next opponent and then you get tripped up, possibly.
Yeah,
new game.
I guess, but that's their first road game of the season. Yeah, you got Clemson the next week, but
homecoming for Mike too, man. It's a homecoming game for Mike Norvell. He ain't gonna want to lose.
Yeah, I think they'll be. They don't really strike me as a group that looks ahead. Once they've gotten to this level of talent, they've kind of handled their business. I don't recall many games where you'd be like, oh, they're just not focused. They had some bad games last year, but Boston College, half the team was not feeling well. And even after a horrible start, they were up 31-10. And then Pitt, they just didn't have any receivers. Duke, maybe they didn't start out well, but I don't think they certainly weren't overlooking Duke. That was a prime time. That doesn't seem to be in their DNA to look past to have these kind of trap games. They kind of do a good job of taking care of business. That said, 2 things. Number one, the poster you just mentioned, I am with them. That Georgia Tech offense at the end of the year was mauling folks. It was running over everyone, and it gave Georgia a handful. That is not a cakewalk. They are going to be hard. They are going to run. That kid can run. He's going to be fresh-legged. He runs he runs like Castellanos the next week. So they come out of the gate having to face 2 really talented running quarterbacks, which is never good. You never want your defense to face that. I also think North Carolina, man, we'll just see. They're going to be competent. They're going to be okay. And okay in between at Notre Dame and at Miami is could be a little bit of a trappy look ahead kind of game.
Thanks, Benjamin.
They always have NFL quarterbacks. I don't know who their quarterback is this year, but I assume he's going to the league in a couple of years because that's what North Carolina does.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure who they have churning up back there.
Thought they were going to take a step back when Sam Howell left, and then they got a kid that was better than him.
Nick Snyder's here. Corey, any insight on who the Maryland problem game will be for 2024?
All of them. Yeah. I'm going to go with Georgia Tech. I'm going to stick with that. I think Georgia Tech is better than we remember. I don't remember if they made a bowl last year or not. They might have. But they are not incompetent.
They beat UCF.
And they ran all over teams at the end of the year. That is not, and they beat. I know North Carolina had a horrible defense, but They won that game against North Carolina, who was in the top 10 at the time, I think, and ran for like 400 yards on them. That's not going to be easy. I don't think that kid's a very good throwing quarterback, but he makes plays with his legs if he gets going, and that's somebody Haynes King, the former Jimbo starter. So I'm going to say that they're starting out with a problem, Nick. They're starting out with a problem.
Wait for it. It's the name of the poster, everybody. What is the worst case scenario for order of game? Well, he posted at 5:03, so we see the schedule, but we do see it in its glory. I thought this was going to be a question on what's like the worst case scenario for the team this year. Like the absolute cynic would say you could lose Georgia Tech, you lose Clemson, you lose Miami, you lose Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Like that to me, that's worst case. Now you're 8-4.
Yeah, somewhere around there. I mean, it always depends on injuries, right? You don't want to be down to your third string quarterback and second string offensive line. But if you stay relatively healthy, yeah, I feel like 8-4 is probably as low as you can go. But there's a chance. We think they're going to be 5-0 getting to Clemson. They do have talent on this team, and they are very well coached. But college football is weird. They could be 3-2 going to that Clemson game. You just never know. None of those games, really none of them, are absolute. It's not North Alabama. Like they're all Division I teams that have won some games and gone to some bowls, and so they're not going to be just sitting there waiting to get steamrolled.
They're favored. Their Cal game's probably the only game they're favored in double digits.
I would think Memphis too. I would think
really,
Memphis. And maybe Boston College too, for that matter. It all depends on how they look the first couple games. Like if they steamroll Georgia Tech and Boston College,
I'm saying as we sit here now, if they were to handicap the games, I'm saying
I would say BC, Memphis, and Cal, they're all favored by double digits. But Cal, but not by much. I'm talking about like 12-14.
Memphis went 10-3 last year. Number 6 scoring offense in the country. I don't know if their quarterback's coming back, though. I think he might have had a last dance. Don't quote me on that, but that could be maybe like a 9.5 or what have you there. So
yeah, but not a gimme, not an absolute slam dunk win. It's a tough schedule in that sense that other than Charleston Southern, there's no automatic just get yourself a W. This is not going to be competitive. Like all those teams, if you play poorly, like literally all of them, I think Duke might be the toughest, the least talented because they lost so many guys off last year's team and it's a first-year coach, first-year quarterback. But all those guys, all those teams, maybe Florida too. Like I said, they'll have an interim coach. They're all going to be. You're going to have to play pretty well to win. But luckily, this team plays pretty well most of the time.
Yeah. Again, I just wonder if that's, how much of that is just because they had that overwhelming talent advantage last year, or how much of it really was the quarterback. And I know that plays into the overwhelming talent advantage, what you have the quarterback, but just feel like, man, this coaching staff and what they've established and their expectations, and there's enough guys that are still part of the grime of it all that came on the come up of this all that won't let him backslide. So you just feel like they'll be focused. And if they're focused, they're going to not run through that schedule, but they'll be able to manage it quite nicely.
And I liked what they have at line. I like what they have in the line of scrimmage, both sides. And then DJ is a big deal, man. If Brock Glenn was facing this schedule, that you literally have no idea. It could be a 4 or 5 win team, or it could be 12-0. Like, I don't know. We don't know what that kid's going to be, but you have a consistent, steady 5th-year senior who has played in all kinds of environments. He will not be overwhelmed and he will not get rattled, which is such a luxury to have anytime you're playing a football game.
Our guy SA bringing my sons home to Tallahassee this year from Australia.
All right.
Australia. To see their first game in Doak. I'm thinking Charleston and then just stay for Christmas. Florida, a bit intense for a first game, ?
Well, if you're staying through Christmas, wouldn't you take them to so Florida would be the second game he would take them to, I guess. Or she. Is SA do we know? Man or woman?
Nothing. No determination.
How about that coming back from Australia? How about watching this from Australia? What time is it over there? Isn't it Friday in Australia right now? So is it the weekend already? What's going to happen the next couple of days? Man, probably. I guess I would say I don't know how old your sons are. if
It's
they're
9:40 in the morning, by the way. 9:40 a.m.
okay, all right, on
Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah. So I would say, not knowing how old your sons are, I'm going to assume that means they're elementary aged or younger. Florida could be very intense. So Charleston Southern would be much more laid back for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right.
But unless you want your sons to be exposed to a lot of bad words, maybe fist fights, a whole bunch of drinking and beer. And, I'm not saying people that expose their kids to that are bad parents. I did it with my son. I certainly was done to me, and look how well I turned out, everyone.
Yeah, let's our guy Shaja. I think that's how you pronounce it. Shaja. Apparently looks like has a bye week before playing Florida State.
Oh, all right. And Florida State has a bye week before playing Duke.
Yeah.
So that works out well too. All right. Yeah, man, you can't argue with this at all. There can't be any hand wringing at all about this schedule. It is as fair with those teams. It is absolutely as fair as you could have ever hoped.
Yeah. All right. Or something here.
What are they playing Memphis for? Was that a deal to get Norvell?
I don't know. Some teams have that contract provision where so.
But I would have thought it would be like a home and home. Is it? It's not a home and home, is it?
I don't think so.
No. So yeah, it's odd that they're playing Memphis. Memphis is good. You don't really get a lot of credit for beating them, and they can absolutely beat you if they play well. Like you just said,
they're going to be a double-digit underdog.
Well, double-digit favorites lose all the time, Aslan. I'm saying like they're not going to be a 40-point favorite. I would have thought when you have non-conference of Notre Dame and Florida, you have Charleston Southern and Samford.
Right.
Not Charleston Southern and Memphis. That's a pretty good program there. Hey, Florida State fans know you just got your head coach from there.
Rob Krause. What is the fulcrum? Big word.
Yeah. Yikes.
Or hinge, parenthetically, he adds to us layman. What is the I mean, Corey's got me scared now about Georgia Tech.
Yeah, that's right. Don't sleep on the Jackets, baby. It's going to be a home game for Florida State. I can't imagine there's going to be more than a few thousand Georgia Tech fans, so that'll help.
It's Clemson, right? Because even if you were to lose that Georgia Tech game, if you beat Clemson, everything is back fine. It's geographically, I know that's right, not even the right word, but it's on the schedule linearly. It's the midpoint of it too, so that's probably the best. I would think that's the fulcrum. Your chances hinge on that one, seemingly right now as we talk here on my brother's birthday.
Yeah, I would say I agree with you. I think Clemson is the one that gives you a 2-game lead in the ACC standings where you can afford even a loss at Miami or a loss to those Tar Heels coming in or that tough Friday night crowd at Cameron Outdoor. But I think Clemson is the one that can swing, because if you lose to them, then you're essentially 2 games back of them because they'll have the tiebreaker over you. So that's why the win last year was so important. I would say I agree with you. I think Clemson, where it comes in the season, and that's one of the main teams you're competing for to get to Charlotte. To get to Charlotte.
Looking at the schedule, do you feel like it's Clemson, Florida State? I mean, I know Louisville's done the most with the portal, but looking at that schedule, just Louisville's got 7 games in a row. Clemson has like a nice ebb and flow kind of to their season. That Georgia game is not going to affect their ACC chances. I know they haven't done well in the portal. I know they're coming off they got to be running towards the end of that run of having like those top 5 recruiting classes. But I guess even if they're running at the end of it, that those guys are still going to be juniors and seniors. Do you think, looking at the schedule right now, Corey, would you say if Florida State's the odds-on favorite to be the 1 seed, if you will, going into the conference championship game, do you think Clemson or Louisville is better positioned to be the other team that squares off for the conference championship game in Charlotte?
Yeah, right now, because of history, like Clemson, look, man, they didn't have a good season by their standards. They still won 9 games and lost an overtime game to the undefeated champions of the conference. So they're not that far off. You know what I mean? They're far off from what they were in 2019.
And a bad audible away from beating Miami. right?
Correct. Yeah. That was a crazy. I can't believe they lost that game. That's nuts. That was by far their worst loss of the season because they played the freshman quarterback. I mean, that was not. They didn't even play Van Dyke. But yeah, I would say that Clemson. I'm still convinced they're a 9 to 10 win team until proven otherwise. We get it. They're not what they were, and they are slowly deteriorating, but not to the point where they're a skeleton. They're still plenty good enough to win this conference, in my opinion. So I would say Clemson. Louisville, do we know who the quarterback is?
Tyler Shuck, the kid that was at Oregon, then he was at Texas Tech, and now he's
So he's never done anything.
Basically.
Right? Yeah, I mean, he might. I mean, and that doesn't mean he can't do anything. I'm just saying he's not proven at all. And that's so, like, if Louisville had a good quarterback last year, they would have won the ACC championship. You know what I mean? Like, Florida State's defense was great, but Plummer just wasn't up to the challenge. If they would have had a Jordan Travis-ish quarterback, and I know they don't grow on trees, then they're winning the ACC. So it depends on the quarterback is so important, man. We have no idea what that kid is. He might be worse than Plummer, or he might be the next Lamar Jackson.
He did win he won the Pac-12 with Mario during the COVID year.
He played?
Yeah, he was a starter for them that year. Yeah.
In 2020?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So he hasn't played. So he started in 2020 and then hasn't played the last 2 years?
Well, yeah, he's been injury prone. A lot of injuries to our guy here. This is
okay.
That's a snapshot of his career there thus far. So
so he's been in college since 18.
Mm-hmm.
He went 4-3 in 20.
13-7 as a starter, apparently.
Yeah, but he went 5-0 in 22. I guess he got hurt then.
Correct.
And then was not good at all last year, and I guess he got benched or got hurt again. So anyway, you look at that, and it's not Mariota 2.0. That doesn't look like anything extra special. Golly, it's his 7th year of football.
According to Wikipedia, and why would they lie to us?
They wouldn't. By the way, today for Brady's figure out something on a famous person.
Yes, book
research. Sarah Blakely.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Going with one of the richest women in the world, Florida State grad. I want to see what he tells me about her.
Was this mom's assignment or dad's assignment?
No, this was me. Okay. It's not just men around here, man. There's been a lot of great women in this world, and I want him to learn about them too.
Montario McNeely. Hey, fellas, can we get a champagne bath from Corey if we make the playoffs? #classic.
What if it's legitimately a bath? Like I just sit in a bathtub full of champagne. Can we put that on our site, on our YouTube channel? Would people want that, or probably not at all?
Maybe we get you some flesh-colored Spanx.
There you go. It's all coming together. Or a Merkin. They still make those, I assume. We do something like that, man. And it's a PG show.
Merkin, kids, do not Google Merkin. Do not ask your parents about Merkin. Just keep it moving.
All right. Sorry. My fault.
Tony Greco wants to do a W&L's Wake Up edition. Jeff and Tom are giving one tomorrow. You'll have to wait for them. It's their
thing.
Property.
We don't want to step on their toes.
Yeah, that's their intellectual property. Appreciate it. Let's see what else we got here.
I'd like to go back. When they do their W's and L's, somebody should go back and get what their percentage right is over the last 10 years of doing that. To see if it matters at all or not at all. That'd be an interesting project for one of you listeners to do. They're online or on a podcast somewhere. Go see how Tom and Jeff have done the last few years on their W's and L's.
Somebody was asking us to do an audit on the mock drafts. And I'm like, whoa, that's a huge undertaking. And I don't even know how
I did it last year when people were talking about how Verse was a guaranteed first round pick. And I'm like, yeah, just because you're mocked in October doesn't mean you're going to be drafted there 7 months later. And so I did do an audit of some of those draft picks and saw the percentage that just for that draft, for the 2022 draft and maybe the 21 draft, how close those early mock drafts were to reality. And as you guys can probably imagine, not very. There's like 10 or 12 names that are going to be drafted high, like Caleb Williams. I get it that we got that. But once you get to like 12 to 30, it is complete chaos compared to what the mocks were in October and January.
Oh, we got a question from Chris Moore.
Crispmore, yeah.
Chris Moore. I can't get everybody on the same screen. I can, but then we won't be able to really see it. He was
Well, where's NC State? Just pop NC State on the screen.
well, it is. It's right there on the screen. It's right there.
Where?
Western. Again,
Oh, I see him. I got him. There's that wolf. There's that cute wolf back head.
Sassy
Sorry.
Clark. Western Carolina, Charlotte, Tennessee. They're playing the University of Tennessee.
Well, let everybody know. Chris Moore asked this: who has the easiest schedule in the ACC?
Right. So
For the podcast listeners.
He volunteered NC State. So they got Western Carolina, Tennessee, neutral site, Louisiana Tech, at Clemson, then Northern Illinois, Wake, Syracuse, at Cal, open week, host Stanford, host Duke, open week, at Georgia Tech, at North Carolina.
Yeah. Other than that Clemson game, if they're as good as they've been, that looks a lot like a 6-2 record at the worst, because they're always pretty good. I feel like they lose a game every year that's surprising, but they should handle Syracuse, Cal, Stanford, and Duke. Two of those have at least two of them. I haven't followed Cal and Stanford for years, but Syracuse and Duke have first-year coaches. Wake Forest was really bad last year. North Carolina just lost. I mean, yeah, man, they might be favored in all those games except Clemson. I'm talking about the ACC games. Tennessee will be tough, obviously. So yeah, man, that's maybe at Georgia Tech. Well, that certainly will be tough. Georgia Tech might be playing for the national championship, folks. Yeah, on first blush, doesn't that look like maybe the easiest of teams that are typically good? Like I'm not looking at Boston Colleges or Cals or Dukes, but for the teams that can consistently compete in the top half or top quarter of this conference, that looks to be probably the easiest.
Yeah. Also of note, maybe like Clemson and Florida State are the only two schools that look like they've got that FCS game before their regular season finales.
Okay, there you go.
Probably goes to the fact. Well, actually, no, Syracuse has got Connecticut, but they're not an FCS team.
Might as well be.
Jim Moore Jr.'s got them playing a little harder in stores these
days.
Right.
You're right.
But I guess maybe that goes to the fact that nobody else closes out their season playing an SEC team other than Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech's got a legit game. They got the 21st, so that's a Thursday night game against NC State before they host the Dogs. So,
but
just looking at that, man, looks nice. Looks very manageable. Ed Johnson, do we know? I don't know what day Indigenous Peoples Day is. Curious to let us know when it is. Yes, any reason the Seminoles would not play on that day? We'll have to see where it falls on the calendar. See where it falls on the calendar. Grillmaster says Syracuse. Sleeper. Are they the Duke of 2024, Corey? Could Syracuse with their new coaching staff, Kyle McCord, and that schedule, Ohio, Georgia Tech off week, Stanford, Holy Cross, at UNLV.
How about that?
How about that?
Out of nowhere in late October, they're just rolling to Vegas.
That was a Dino Baber special. Like he wanted to go out to Vegas.
Yeah.
He was looking forward to that one. At NC State, off week, specialty game at Pitt. That's a lot of 3 road games in a row.
But they also don't play Clemson, Florida State, or Louisville. So the teams that'll probably be picked as the top 3 in the conference, they don't play any of them. That's a pretty easy schedule. So yeah, I don't know how good they're going to be. First-year coach, I'm not sold on that quarterback at all. He struggled even at Ohio State with all that talent. I doubt he's going to look great for Syracuse, but I could be wrong. Maybe it'll be better to not have that pressure, and he'll be able to fling it around and feel good about himself. But yeah, man, that looks like a pretty. I know he's done well in the portal. Syracuse has. They seem like they spent some money, but I don't know if it's maybe getting the top 20. I don't think they're a sleeper to be like. It depends on what your definition is, what the context of sleeper is. Sleeper for the conference, I wouldn't think so, but maybe to get to 8 or 9 wins, 8 wins, I think they could do that with that schedule.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll claw their way up the polls like Duke did.
Right.
But my guy, Kyle McCord, completed 66% of his passes, had 24 touchdowns, 6 picks, and threw for 3,170 yards.
Yeah.
If I gave you those numbers for DJ Uiagalelei right now, would you take it?
Well, absolutely, yeah. But again, he's judged on a different barometer because of who he's getting to throw to, and you know, not all those defenses were sensational.
No,
And
he
also
ate against
just
Western Kentucky. I think he had like 4 or 5 touchdowns against Western Kentucky that skews it a little bit.
yeah, I was gonna say just the games I watched weren't. I didn't watch a lot of Ohio State. I watched them against Penn State. I watched them against Michigan. I don't remember if they played Iowa. I hope I didn't watch it if they did. But he didn't look good, and he didn't look impressive at all in any of those games. But he's also first-year starter, so and taking over for apparently one of the best quarterbacks that's ever lived, in C.J. Stroud.
Dak ain't it. I know that. That's what CD Lamb's mom said after complimenting C.J. Stroud. He only threw 3 touchdowns against Western Kentucky. But yeah, Notre Dame game, not great.
No. At Michigan, he was okay. He threw a horrible pick to end that game. Ran for minus 65 yards, so you don't have to worry about that. Looks like he had some good games against bad teams. And then on the road at Wisconsin, struggled. On the road at Michigan, struggled. And then, did what he was supposed to do, I guess against the other teams.
Would 17 of 26 for 226, 2 touchdowns and 2 picks, would that Wisconsin line, would that beat Miami this year?
If you hold him to 10, like the Ohio State defense did, yeah, sure. Throw 5 picks as long as you hold him to 10 points.
Oh, man. All right, let's get some more questions here. I think we got some more questions here. Jacob Carlton, we got a big Syracuse contingent here.
Yeah.
Where is Baylor schedule? We need lots of Dave Aranda on coach speak.
Well
I've
said.
never watched, and I mean, is there one in particular, Corey, that you can recommend to us uninitiated? Not one of your episodes because we watch all of them. But is there like a quintessential Dave Aranda game moment?
Press conference moment? No, they're all the same. That's why we make fun of him. He always says, I appreciate that when he gets asked a hard question, and then talks like a yoga instructor. So it's hard to explain. I would say whatever the first coach speak was where we were introduced to him, which I think was the very first one, it's eye-opening. It's incredible. So I would suggest go and watch that one.
Hawaii Knoll, I do feel like there's a considerable amount of couching and qualifying that's not necessary. I'd be fine if I never heard anything outside of injury. We should, ellipses. It's not necessary.
Agreed. I know I'm guilty of doing that, but I've been on freezing cold takes exposed before.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, well, I said that Mel Kiper was high for saying that Jameis might win the Heisman. This was before he'd ever played a game, by the way. Not after the Pitt game, I was like, yeah, okay, Mel. But yeah, so I got exposed for that one. But the reality is, man, like I hate talking in 100% certainty about something that's not certain.
That's what this job is, Corey. It's what you signed up for.
But it isn't. I can give my opinion, but I want to stress that it's an opinion. Like, this team should be good next year. If they get riddled with injury, I don't want to be sitting here saying people saying, well, you said they were going to be good next year and they're going to win 10 games. Well, yeah, things happen. I mean, it's just my opinion. So, it is what it is. But, yeah, I say it a lot because injuries matter a lot. As we kind of saw at the end of 2023, when your team didn't get to go to the playoff because your quarterback got hurt. I mean, I put the quotes because I'm not sure they would have gone to the playoff even if Jordan Travis was 100% healthy, but that was the reason they used.
All right. If I can get Corey to retire couching statements, tough hill to climb. If I can do that, America, will you all agree to not talk about tiebreaker scenarios, especially now? Shout out to our guy, King Spleen. Watch a lot of shows. Says maybe this is him being sarcastic, in which case, touche, well done. The ACC could have a problem if FSU, NC State, and Louisville go undefeated. Neither of us play each other.
I would say take out undefeated and just say have finished with the same record.
Okay.
Because that's much more probable than three. I mean, I don't know if there's ever been a season where 3 ACC teams went undefeated. I know a lot of times it's because they all had to play each other, so it was mathematically impossible. But I don't foresee a scenario where 3 different teams are going undefeated. But certainly there could be a log jam at the top. So if he phrased it, could have a problem if all 3 finish 6-2 or finish with the same record. That it would be an interesting tiebreaker.
Blue collar chef coming for that job, one of our jobs. Speaking with certainty, Tokars, DJ Uyunglele, and Adams' underrated defense gets us to 12-0. #bucket.
We're coming for you, blue collar. If you're wrong, we're gonna expose you. Yeah, hey man, that's what we're all rooting for. And DJ is gonna be really fun to watch in the spring. I just want to see what it looks like. It is a new offense for him, but he's played so much football. It's not that much different than what he was running last year, and he was good last year. Not great, not Jordan Travis, but good. And is he good enough to get you to the conference championship? I think he is, but it's not a guarantee, but I definitely think he is. He's certainly better, in my opinion, than the options you were going to have if he hadn't joined your roster. It's just going to be fun to see what these receivers look like and what he looks like.
Hit the thumbs up, everybody. We really would appreciate it. All it does is just ping the video out there and let people know that we're hanging out. So it's not going to sign you up for extended warranty robocalls or anything. It's totally harmless. Promise. Please hit it. A last look at the schedule for the 2024 season as Corey and I wind things down here on this special live edition of Wake Up Warchant presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, as the 2024 schedule is now unveiled in its full majestic glory, though we don't know kickoff times yet. But we'll get to that at some point. Looks nice. That's the Aslan analysis of it. Again, Corey, you sometimes a little bit more eloquent, a little bit more verbose. Any last thoughts, again, as we look at the schedule that seemingly seems fairly manageable in this day and age in a Power 5 conference when you're at one of the best programs in the country?
Shout out to Ben for the graphic. Because it looks kind of on first glance that Norvell is mad. But he's fired up. Like he's fired up. Like, yeah, we just got to stop. Or, yeah, that Keon just mossed that kid. He's fired up, and I think if he was looking at this schedule, he'd be pretty fired up about it.
All right.
You know, I think that's the ACC did not do them wrong. 3 home games in September for 2 years in a row is a little odd, but there is a Saturday off in between them. It's not 3 straight Saturdays in a row. So yeah, I think that's it's as much as you could hope for. It's as good as you could have hoped for when we started this show at 5:00.
Now, barring anything crazy happening, this is the last show of the week for us.
Hey, shout out to the Hoops team. Great dub on
Go
Tuesday
ahead, Corey.
night.
Give us 90 strong seconds, please.
It doesn't have to be 90 strong seconds, but Watkins was incredible. He was very, very good. He had 27 and 11. He had 11 rebounds, which is really good, and once they stopped fouling or stopped getting called for fouls, they really clamped down on Syracuse's offense. And that was just a really good win. They've won 3 straight road games. They're now 6-2. I think they're 84th in the net, which is outside, obviously, of the NCAA tournament, but they play the team that is, I think, 3rd in the net on Saturday. And if they can somehow, and I shouldn't say somehow, they'll be underdogs, but only by a few points on Saturday. If they can beat North Carolina, which is not an easy matchup because Florida State doesn't rebound well and North Carolina does. But if they can beat North Carolina, that would be a huge win. And I think a win over North Carolina gets them on the bubble. They're not on the bubble yet. A win over North Carolina gets them on the bubble. They played their way into that. They're 2nd place, which is crazy. 6-2 in the ACC. And if they beat North Carolina, they'll still be in 2nd place. But that would be the biggest win for this program in a good long while, and would get them in the NCAA tournament discussion, which is more than I would have even thought was possible a month ago.
Guys asking about the Nintendo behind me. How much is it? I don't know, man. Make me a good offer. Everybody's got a price, right? Everybody's got a price. So
$1,000. Is that not enough?
American,
okay.
Unmarked bills. Shout out to Benjamin Haygood for throwing some dollars in the tip jar. Certainly appreciate it. Appreciate all you guys' questions. Appreciate you all hanging around to talk about football in January. We love it.
Isn't it awesome?
It's amazing. It's amazing. Hit the
And we've
thumbs
only
up.
got probably what, Aslan, about 6 or 7 weeks maybe until spring football starts.
Mhm.
So once we get through these 6 or 7 weeks, we're right in the middle of football. We're going to be able to give you observations because we're lucky enough to get to watch spring practice. So go to Warchant, sign up. You'll get real-time observations of everything we see. We don't have to hold back on anything except injury. Everything else we see, we can report on. So if you're not a member, become a member just to find out about these new transfer portal guys, what the receivers look like. It's not just me giving my opinions. It's Tom Lang, it's Ira, it's Aslan, it's the whole gang, Jeff. So sign up for Warchant, and then really once we get through, I don't know when the spring game is, sometime in April, we'll be right up into the summer getting ready for Ireland, man. It's coming fast and furious. So join Warchant. You'll get to know everything you want to know about this football team that you love.
What an unbelievable sales pitch by our guy. I would tell him to drop the mic, but it's attached to his head with a headset. So there he goes. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. I think he might have broke something. Thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up, 5-star rating review on the way out. Stay connected to warchant.com.